the 1850s, part of what happens in the 1850s is that the sort of national party system collapses and things become really focused around section as opposed to around party, and that's a problem if slavery is the big issue. But another thing that happens towards the late 1850s is, and I think it's relevant today as well, Congress functions partly on the floor, partly in committees, and partly in private, in communication and negotiation and sort of, you know, asides. There's a sort of social level in which a lot gets done. A lot of agreements are reached, or arrangements are made. And I think Congress is particularly dysfunctional when that isn't operating. And I don't mean just anyone, I mean like people of opposing politics, being able to sit in a room and informally chat over dinner. You know, the sort of cross-partisan dinner parties where people are, you know, you just, right now, you're not seeing any of that. No, and that's a piece of the institution of Congress that's being stripped away.
What you see in its place are individual members of Congress grandstanding to empty chambers, right? Giving these big speeches, taking a clear stand, and nobody's in the chamber, right? I mean, there's no real meaningful deliberation that's going on. It's beyond disagreement.
Public
it's lack
private.
of meaningful engagement across the various
public
parties.
Public or private, on the floor or off the floor.
It's part of that because it's just the modern world, you know, communications. Somebody can go out in front of C-SPAN on the House floor and morning hour speeches, whatever, give a speech, and nobody's there. In early days in Congress, giving speeches was not only policy, it was also entertainment, wasn't it? It was people would come to see speeches being made, great orators, as you mentioned.
That's probably part. I mean, I suspect there are a variety of things in play. Another big thing in play is money in politics, and the amount of time that members of Congress have to spend today simply raising money creates less time for them to engage with one another. So when you've got to spend a lot of time raising money and taking out clear positions that your constituents are going to like, and then generate a basic kind of set of accomplishments that you can point to, there's not much time left over in a day for members of Congress to meaningfully deliberate, openly deliberate with one another.
And I think technology, because technology is the link between Congress and the public, does have also, as you suggested, an influence. I mean, I'm really intrigued by the moment we're having now with people sort of sitting and tweeting in Congress, and the fact that anything any politician says can become international within, you know, a millisecond. But what's interesting is in the late 1840s, you get the telegraph, and you get an increasingly nationalized press. And the congressmen it's a different technology, but they're equally, you know, sort of freaked out at what the implications of it. So there's an incident in 1850 in which one senator pulls a gun on another senator
in the Senate.
In the Senate chamber, but nothing happens, and they're sort of both restrained, and the moment passes, and they're about to sort of happily charge on with, you know, what's going to happen, and someone, a New Hampshire congressman, stands up and says, "I feel the need to say something. I hope you all realize that even as we sit here, they're beginning to read all over the country that we've just slaughtered each other in the Senate." So and everyone is sort of like, oh, okay, it's instant, and it's the press, which means, you know, nothing happened, but that's not what they're going to read in the newspapers. So it's an interesting kind of similar moment in which the technology is opening possibilities, but people haven't entirely figured out how to harness that in the best possible way.